And so game week 21 is in the books, and it was a big swingy game week. It was a difficult game week to navigate for a lot of FPL managers with the midst of all the injury and rotation crisis that has occurred over the past few game weeks. And now we have a little bit of time to reset. We have a bit of time to consider our next move more effectively with that 9-day break, 10-day break until game week 22, and it's a break I am very relieved for because I am tired. I have been giving all my energy, not all of it, but most of my energy to this game we all love with mixed results. There's been some good weeks. There's been some weeks where I've been in my shed ranting and raving, but I always find the festive frenzy the most intense part of the season. And if you can emerge from that in a decent position, not necessarily a great one, but a decent one, you always have a chance to push on in that second half. And it is going to take a bit of an effort for me. At the minute, I am 1.4 million in the world. Double check that. My exact rank, 1.35 million. So that's not too bad. When you think where we were not so long ago, you know, 9.8 million back to 1.35 at game week 21. It's a good turnaround. It is not a bad situation to be in at all. And now we have a chance to push on. But before we get on to how we're going to do that, let's talk about game week 21 because it was a dramatic game week. And obviously, if you have the main man, Igor Thiago, you are crowing right now. You are Jon Snow and the Crows, whereas the rest of us are eating crow pie, that humble pie, for bringing in the man Ekitike, who has not played in either of the last two game weeks, and what a disaster of a signing Ekitike has been. And the man Nick Trigger, he called it. He said, you don't rip up your squad structure to get Ekitike in. And I did that. Well, I didn't do that because I had a 3-striker system already. What's frustrating to me is that the striker I replaced was Igor Thiago because of the fixtures. And then I kept Nick Voltemada because of the fixtures, when really I should have looked at the form. And if I'd have kept Thiago, I would have been, about 29 points better off right now. I would have been well ensconced in that top million, probably about 750,000. And that's a big call. It's a big swingy call. But it's one you can justify with looking at the fixtures. And this is something we do need to be careful of going forward, not just to prioritise fixtures over form players. And this is perhaps the hardest thing in FPL, because if you sign someone with good fixtures in the blank, they say, you should have looked at the form. If you sign someone in good form with bad fixtures in the blank, they say, you should have gone for the fixtures. You know, nobody remembers the result. Nobody remembers the wins. They always remember when it goes wrong and how it affects us and the mistakes we've made. And then we change our plans for the future based on the results. When really, we can look at any example for either. We could look at Thiago. I mean, maybe Thiago's fixtures were better than we're giving credit for. But, you know, and we'll get back to this a little bit later. I need to be quite concise in a way I haven't been recently, because we've got a lot to get through and I have a delivery coming. And I'm a bit nervous about the delivery because there's a lot to come. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So, of course, for me, the big success, the big moment was Bruno Guimaraes. Come on! Only the second time this season I've released a single subject video about a player who I felt was a must-sign at the time. First one was obviously Nick Voltemada. And, you know, at the time he came in, had a good little run, got a lot of returns. And it wasn't as spectacular as I hoped, but it was a success at the time. If I'd have got rid of him instead of Thiago, I would have been buzzing. And, of course, Bruno Guimaraes. And you know what it was? It was my man Bible FPL, who is a very small YouTuber at the minute, and I think he deserves more views. And he was talking, I said in the last walking video, he was talking about the Good Samaritan, about helping your rivals, accepting help from your rivals. And I thought, am I missing a trick? So I looked at the Xhaka Bruno Guimaraes home rotation, saw it had 121 points, higher than any individual midfielder at the time, higher than any player at the time over Haaland. And I thought, I'm going to have to get on that. And I made the video about it. And obviously that Xhaka Guimaraes home rotation is now 132 points. I think 10 points clear of Declan Rice. It's undeniable at this stage. 16 game weeks to go. Are you gonna forego that at a time when we're looking at the likes of Cole Palmer, we're looking Bruno Fernandes, we're looking at, are we keeping Phil Foden for the next 2 weeks? There's expensive assets in the game. Mo Salah will be back in a couple of weeks. Like, will he be reinvigorated? I don't know. It's hard to say with Mighty Mo, but we'll have to see. But do you really want to rule yourself out when we've got these options? So that's why I looked at Guimaraes and Xhaka. And like I say, 132 points from home games with that perfect home rotation due to policing concerns. And, you know, I made that video and I was nervous because I don't like giving advice, really. I like discussing ideas, but I gave that advice. And then you think, please just get something. So I don't look at it. I don't feel braggadocio because of Guimaraes. I feel relieved because that's just the way I am. I feel like it's the best way to be, really. Ranting and raving about your failures, but humble about your successes. That, I feel, that is the golden zone for content such as this. But yeah, you know, I mean, like Bruno G. I mean, people say it's a fluke, FPL mate, or he's a point scammer, but he isn't. This is the thing, he isn't. He is a talisman. He is so involved. Maybe it isn't reflected in the numbers, but the amount of time at times he is playing the killer pass around the area. This is an eye test pick. You know, in the era of the projection models, of the XG, of the expected assists, of the data, Bruno Guimaraes is the ultimate grass pick because he just doesn't miss. Certainly at home, he's even got a couple of good scores away, but certainly at home, he is fueled by that crowd and he fuels the crowd. And he's always around the box. And like, yes, Newcastle's defence is still a bit poor, but that gives Guimaraes power because he has to drive Newcastle on. And I'm not going to rant too much about it because I know I get criticised if I talk too much about Newcastle, but Guimaraes, you know, he's gonna keep getting the points, I feel, because he's so involved. You know, quite often he's the pass before the assist, but like the way he's getting points is so skillful, it's so varied. And them corners, he's going to score another corner by the end of the season because he's just shooting from them all. So I would not be scared of Guimaraes. 88 points from home games now. You know, 7 returns in the last 8, 6 of those double figures. It's just massive. And then you compare that to someone like Haaland. Now, this is a big call people are considering. Is Haaland worth captaining? Is Haaland even worth owning? Some people are thinking. £15 million, 1 penalty goal in 4 games. And, you know, the history does suggest Haaland fades away around this time of year, where he goes from being that explosive, undeniable element that catches fire to just being a little simmering, you know, just simmers along, getting these 1 return games, 6 points, 7 points, 8 points, but that's it. And it's like they say, oh, maybe we should sell him. I've considered it myself. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't, just as a means to attack the field. But all I would say is I would urge caution with selling Haaland because, I mean, it's an interesting phenomenon why he always tires. And I feel like it's because Guardiola overplays him. Like, you know, Guardiola. Oh my God, it's slippery. It's slippery. Tell you what, I'm a bit disappointed because it was meant to be a snowstorm last night. I thought we'd get lovely, you know, atmospheric walking video, snow all around us, bit of Christmas music. Well, I wouldn't put music on a walking video, but instead it's just icy. My shoelaces keep coming undone. Like, what is going on with shoelaces nowadays? You buy them and like they must be putting more plastic in them because there's no grip. There's no texture to them. You tie them and 10 minutes later they need tying again. And I don't know, maybe it's the time to switch to Velcro. My mind is too busy. My life is there's too much going on to be wasting these precious moments tying shoelaces over and over. Maybe I just need to switch to permanent sliders. I don't know. But this goes back to FPL. Sometimes things change and we have to adapt to them. And Haaland dropping down to consistent without being spectacular, is he worth 15 million? Well, I don't think there's enough evidence to say it's time to get rid, because, you know, we were saying this about Thiago 3 weeks ago and look where we are now. How stupid us sellers all feel. Oh, as if we sell him because of a couple of quiet games. Nailed on penalties. Somehow finds a way to goal. Entire team focused on him. If you sell Haaland, you know he's banging in the next one. So it's not a risk. I am one for engaging and risking FPL, but at this stage, I don't see the point. But if you do want to sell Haaland, I feel like the temptation would be to wildcard out and distribute the funds, maybe get Saka, Palmer, Fernandes. I mean, a lot of people can afford them without selling Haaland, but maybe, you know, that's a strategy they want to go for. But I would say if you are going to risk selling Haaland, you're better off saving the wild card for if it inevitably goes wrong. Because then you don't want to be in a position where you are struggling to be able to get the most expensive, highly owned player in the game. It's just asking for trouble. So back to my game week. Voltemade, assist, lovely. Now, I've already said about how I wish I'd sold him over Ekitike, but I had to take the chance, you know. I thought he'd start 2 of the last 3 games. He started 1, got the assist. Not enough. And I can tell you for now, I have already sold him. Yes, I sold him on Wednesday night, 10 days before the deadline. FA Cup matches to come. I sold Voltemade for Igor Thiago, and part of it is fueled by the ridiculously volatile price changes that we are experiencing this season. But it's not just that. Like, I talk a lot about how my FPL team, it's as much about emotion management as team management for my season. And I know in my heart of hearts, the longer I left it, the more likely I would be to talk myself into giving Voltemade just one more game. Oh, it's Wolves. One more game. And like, maybe that will prove to be the correct move. Maybe Voltemade will go and get a hat-trick against Wolves. But, I mean, Wolves are better than they've improved a lot under the new manager. So that's not even a gimme. Will Voltemade even start? I mean, he's not been the best player away from home. Newcastle as a team have not been great away from home. So I don't feel a double Newcastle attack for that fixture is actually optimal anyway. Would have been a nice differential, but I don't know. We've got 2 games between now and then as well, and it's just like, is he going to start? It's not worth it. So I brought in Big Igor Thiago. Yes, the price changes were part of it. But also, I actually, like, people are considering, Ben Crellin's considering selling Thiago. So for me to bring him in, maybe it is, obviously it's a bit of points chasing, but like, people say points chasing, but we're all chasing points in this game. Like, oh, you've got to be able to predict the future, yes, but the fact is, Thiago is the 2nd top scorer in the league. He's, I think, the 2nd top scorer in the game, and there's nothing going to change unless he gets injured. But to be honest, I don't think he'll play in the Cup. They're playing Sheffield Wednesday. I think that they'll take the opportunity to give the big man a rest. Keith Andrews has talked about needing to manage his minutes and look after him. So I think that's a good opportunity for them. Play Sade up front. So maybe he'll play. Maybe it'll force me into a wild card. Maybe subconsciously I'm hoping for injuries to force me into a wild card. I just don't know. But the longer I leave it, the more likely I'll be to give Voltemada another week. And I just don't think that's good. And then I'll be sat here on the next video say, oh, why didn't I just do it? And I did think of the hit last week for him, Ekitike or Voltemada would have been Voltemada, to Thiago, and Nick Trigg talked me out of it, and he feels bad, but he shouldn't, because in my choice, I own my decisions. And to be honest, I haven't lost that much. If I'd have done Voltemada to Thiago, I would have got, Voltemada 5 points, 4 point hit. So I've only lost 4 points. It's not a catastrophe, but it maybe is the warning sign, get the nailed man on penalties in the team that's scoring goals consistently over, one of your players from your favourite team. So I've done that, and there are pros and cons. Obviously, the price changes will help, especially with the big changes we're going to need to our squads coming up. The risk is there of injury, but, it is what it is. Sometimes you've got to take a gamble. Sometimes engaging with risk means moving early in the transfer market. But I feel like ultimately, at some point, I need to bite the bullet and sell Voltemada, and it's as good a time as any. So, yeah, Henderson, clean sheet, lovely way for him. He has been a bit of a dud pick, especially when you think of how, Kelleher has absolutely killed it. Couple of lucky penalty saves, really, but he is statistically the best goalkeeper in history, I believe, for saving penalties. So I don't really ascribe to the notion that it is lucky that somebody utilises the skill in FPL to make points up. So that was, but it's nice that he's got a clean sheet. I would like rid of him, but that's going to have to wait for the wild card, I think. I can't be wasting money on goalkeeper transfers anymore. I can't be wasting points. Henderson, I think he's my 5th goalkeeper of the season, which is just ridiculous. So, yeah, but then looking forward to the future, well, no, before that, Lewis Hall, he got an assist as well. And this actually is looking forward to the future. What we're talking about is that Bruno Xhaka rotation. And I'm pleased that Lewis Hall got that assist because he's such a good player. He's pivotal to Newcastle. And even though this is what I mean about fixtures and form as well, our fixtures aren't great, but Lewis Hall is on so many set pieces. He just missed a touch on the ball from 2 yards out in open play, which would have been a goal which I think would have probably been offside. But at the same time, the fact he's in those positions, getting those chances from left back, he's absolutely pivotal to Newcastle. People think he's a rotation risk. I don't think he is. When Hall is fit, he is so crucial to the way Newcastle play. I wouldn't even be telling you not to get him, because we talked about the Newcastle-Sunderland rotation in midfield, Guimaraes and Xhaka, 132 points. The other option, of course, is Mukiele and Hall or Chow or Livramento's back. And Livramento is key to Newcastle defensively. He is the one that unlocks the clean sheets for Newcastle. And, it's the same thing. You're guaranteeing a home game and it's maybe worth a punt. I think the only problem is Newcastle don't really have that DEFCON daddy. Sunderland have got Mukiele, although he's only the daddy at centre-back. When he's at right-back, he's not so nailed for the DEFCONs. So maybe Alderete would be the better option on a wild card. But I like it. I like the idea of rotating between 2 players to guarantee a home game, because what it means is if they have a bad game, like, you know, this coming week, I probably won't start this rotation just yet because I don't have Xhaka, and I just can't see me buying him when Guimaraes has Wolves. So I can wait a week for that. But if I had Xhaka, then I would start him, and then Guimaraes at Wolves is such a beautiful, you know, substitute option if needed, the cover. And this is something, you know, if you are wildcarding early, you do need to consider the bench boost. And a Newcastle-Sunderland defensive rotation, all you'd have to do is wait for them to have a good away game. And obviously you couldn't go with this Wolves game this forthcoming week because of playing your wild card, but it's certainly a nice way to do it, I think. You know, Xhaka, Mookie Haley, you know, Krupi Jr. as your third sub, or Mane from Wolves. You know, there's some good options. I prefer Krupi. I think that Mane might be a bit of a flash in the pan. Krupi, I feel like he's more the real deal, and with Semenyo going, he will assume greater responsibility, given he's already demonstrated, 7 goals in 7 starts. But yeah, a bench of Xhaka, Mookie Haley, Krupi for a bench boost is not a bad bench boost at all if you get the right week, which I haven't looked into. But I have looked into the wild card. I am undecided. It's tough. It's bloody cold. Do you know what it is? It's cold, and I have to keep being concise. I can see I'm clocking up the clock. So talk a bit faster, Nightmare. Come on now, man. Come on. So yeah, but I have to, because I've got a delivery coming. Got a load of deliveries coming today, and I need to be back because I've got a new winter coat. I'm all excited. Waterproof winter coat. I have a good waterproof coat, but it's not warm, so it's a bit crap in the winter. So I've got a new one coming, and it's not like a name brand or anything. It's just one of these cheap Amazon brands. And do you know, sometimes you get mixed results with them. Like, I got a new backpack 5 years ago, just a cheap Amazon brand, and it's been wonderful. I use it 4 to 6 times a week. Fantastic stuff. You know, it's been pissed wet through repeatedly, absolutely fine, no issues at all. Sometimes these cheap Amazon brands do wonders for you. And then obviously sometimes, like when it comes to technology, I would always get the best I can afford. Like with me camera, my walking camera that I'm using today. It's, you know, it's not a high, very expensive DSLR camera. It's just an action camera, but it's what I needed to film in the rain, in the cold. If it starts snowing, I don't need to worry. So I wouldn't cheap out on the technology, but certainly with the coat, I don't know, it could go either way. It's a worry. Hopefully it'll last like my backpack has, but we'll see. But it is important, really. Like, there is a reason I'm going into this, and it's because sometimes we spend the money because we think the big name is the answer. Always more expensive is the proven name. He must be the best option. And this is obviously paralleled with FPL. And I know a lot of people are considering the wild card. Even my man Nick Trigg, Mr. Patient, is considering the wild card. And if someone of his calibre can consider a wild card, there's going to be millions. I am. I'm amazed I haven't done it already. And sometimes the hard thing on this wild card, if you go for it, even the transfers, is deciding whether to spend on the expensive technology that you can rely on or take a chance on the cheap Amazon brand. And it's hard because at the minute the cheaper brands are killing it this season. Like, look at some options. Bukayo Saka, murdered by Rice. Phil Foden, yes, he had a good little run, but Shirky is doing him, you know, at least matching him for 2.5 million cheaper. Bruno Guimaraes, so many people went Gordon, always got his history. He had that Almiron season. He's on penalties when he's on the pitch, you know. Gamara is cheaper, destroying him. Tarkowski, I went for James Tarkowski. Michael Keane outscored him, even though he got a red card. And, Alex Vollo did say that Everton target Keane far more than Tarkowski on set pieces, that their strategy had evolved. And I did know that, and I didn't overlook it, but I decided that Tarkowski was worth the premium, because when Branthwaite comes back, will Keane retain his place? I don't know. Certainly getting a stupid red card for, pulling somebody's hair is not going to help his cause. And, so I want Tarkowski, I want my Everton defender until game week 30 at least, 29, I think I had noted down. And I don't want to have to waste a transfer changing it. So in that case, I thought Tarkowski was worth the premium. And then you look at some others, Cunha. We all thought Cunha was the answer these last 3 game weeks. Casemiro's beaten by 4 points, 2.5 million cheaper. Florian Wirtz, he's done well the last few game weeks, but Gravenberch absolutely killed him this season. And then I see a lot of people are looking at Cole Palmer now. Oh, Palmer must have, but you look at that list of names: Rice, Shirky, Guimaraes, Keane, Gravenberch, Casemiro, and you think, is Enzo Fernandez the better pick? Is Enzo Fernandez, he's pretty much nailed, completely fit on penalties when Palmer's not about, and Palmer is not always about. But he has a better DEFCON potential being in that central role. I don't think we'll ever see Cole Palmer get DEFCONs. And we have to consider this, because all of those cheap players killing their more expensive counterparts have got DEFCON potential. They are DEFCON potential players with attacking threat. And maybe that's where we've been going wrong. Maybe that's why I'm struggling so much, because I've been slow to adopt. It's irritating to me, because I made the video in game week 3 before game week 4. I watched Walsh from FPL with Late Riser talk about going for maximising the DEFCON strategy. And I thought, this is genius. But I'd already used my wild card, and I've not quite built. It's hard, because you look at an individual transfer, and if you could get Cole Palmer, why would you get Enzo Fernandez? If you could get Bruno Fernandes now, well, Bruno Fernandes, he is where you would go for a premium over a Casemiro or, even a Cunha. But why would you get Foden when you could get Shirky? And we can make up every argument you can play against Shirky, you can apply to Foden, because we just don't know Pep's whims. So, yeah, that's something to consider. The DEFCONs and attacking threat is proving the way to go. Maybe it's because of the game. Maybe it's because of the way football has evolved. Well, some would say devolved this season. It's a much more agricultural game. And that's it. Will I wildcard? I'm uncertain. I'm leaning more towards taking a -8 or even a -12, although I don't really think I need it. I'm not even convinced I need to make another transfer if Thiago's fit. I look at my team for next week, and Henderson against Sunderland in goal, fine. Gabriel and Rice against Forest, fine. O'Reilly, Foden, Haaland, that's against Man United. This is why I'm not so. People are selling Foden. I would urge caution. Foden loves the Manchester derby. I would wait a week, 2 weeks, because he's got Wolves afterwards. The plan for many has been Foden to Fernandes or Palmer. Don't deviate from that plan. Well, I won't say don't, because that's advice, and I'm not here to give advice, but think hard about deviating from that plan. You do not want an Igor Thiago moment again, and Phil Foden is perfectly capable of giving one. So, O'Reilly, will he start? We'll have to see nearer the time. Maybe I'll switch him to Mukiele, Crystal Palace, at home, good fixture. Then I've got Tarkovsky against Villa. Not great, you know, but at the same time, Villa just blanked against Palace. Tarkovsky will surely have a team that isn't 9 players. Paul and Bruno Guimaraes against Wolves. Again, fine. Not confident of a clean sheet, but hopefully Newcastle 3 wins on the bounce. Hopefully we're winning the cup. Hopefully we'll get a result in the other cup semi-final. We have a bit of momentum going into that clash against Wolves. And then Ekitike against Burnley. And he's the one where the hit might come in. Because if he's not going to play, well, it's one of them. I could risk it. Because O'Reilly, Mukiele, could risk it. But there's so many good options. I don't know. I didn't take the hit in game week 21. And I lost points. Maybe I need to learn from that. We'll see. I'm not against a -8. Ekitike and O'Reilly out. Perhaps Foden. No, I can't do Foden. But very early thoughts. I'm happy with my team. Thiago against Chelsea. I'm not worried about Thiago's fixtures. People say his fixtures are bad. Chelsea have been terrible defensively recently. Then it's Forest at home. That's fine. Aston Villa away. Tough game, but not impossible he could score. Newcastle away. I mean, we've just conceded 3 goals at home. Arsenal, game week 26, obviously tough. And then it's Brighton and Burnley, Bournemouth and Wolves. I mean, I don't think that's a tough fixture run, really. I feel like the toughness of it is being overplayed somewhat. So, crikey, my delivery's not going to be long. Right, before I go, I just want to talk about one other thing, because the other night, Praz, the legendary, iconic Praz from the FPL Wire and Solio, was so down on himself. You know, because 2 million in the world, he has recovered a bit now, 2 million in the world, and he put out his tweet, turned the comments off, and he wasn't sympathy fishing, but you could tell the belief had gone. And I felt really bad for him, because Praz is he's a top man. You see him, he's got the time of day for everyone. And I think he's probably the greatest strategist in FPL. Yes, other people are more devoted to the solvers and get better results sometimes, but when it comes to strategy, long-term strategy, short-term strategy, risk playing, I think Praz is one of the best, perhaps the best. And I felt bad for him. And I looked through his team and his season. How has he ended up 2 million? And it comes down, I'm just going to highlight 5 different calls that he made, just so you get an idea of how the game has changed. He started with Ollie Watkins. They went, 5 weeks without scoring? You couldn't have predicted that. At the same time, starting with Watkins, he'd outscored Haaland 2 seasons running. You know, he'd scored more than a goal a game in pre-season. There was no indication he would struggle the way he did at the start. You know? So you can see why you would go with him. Obviously, Joao Pedro killed it. He would have been the other option. Massive swing. He didn't have Semenyo early. Now, you could say, skill issue, Semenyo was obvious, but he wasn't. He wasn't obvious, because Semenyo last season was a notoriously inconsistent player. He'd get the big hauls, but they'd be sporadic. This sort of consistency he showed in the early weeks it's an evolution of Semenyo. It wasn't reflective of his history to me. Anyway, you know, it was almost like a Ward-Prowse last season, where he'd get these big hauls, but randomly. And then you'd have weeks of 2-pointers, 3-pointers. So you can understand people holding off on Semenyo. Another one of Praz's choices, Salah over Haaland for 5 game weeks. Again, at the same time, Salah was the record-breaking top scorer last season, and he was actually getting returns. The 32-point swing for captaincy was massive, massive. And you can see why somebody would have go for Salah. Another thing Praz did, costing points, he swapped Thiago for Ekitike. A huge swing, huge, 30-odd point swing. But at the same time, Ekitike has looked so explosive when he's had the start. He had great fixtures, he was nailed, and Thiago had just gone 2 or 3 games without even a shot. So you can understand why somebody would make that move. You couldn't have predicted like the way it's turned out. And then Szoboszlai to replace Semenyo. You know, again, he's been punished for that. And the easy thing with that would be to blame the projections. Oh, the projection models. But, you know, like the same people, I've seen it in the comments. Oh, Solio's killed Praz. Solio's killed Praz. Well, Sertalp's top 100k. Trout's top 100k. Chris Musson, who I don't know personally, he's like top 10k. So Solio is just like anything else. It's got its successes and it's got its failures, and you know, blaming correlation does not equal causation in this case. And this isn't me shilling for Solio, because I think Szoboszlai is a terrible pick. I think their insistence on getting Szoboszlai into my team, if I do look at it, does my head in. First player I block. And Nemesha, they love Nemesha of Leeds at the minute. I always block him now. But yeah, you can also see it. He's on the set pieces with Szoboszlai. He's on the penalties. He'd just taken a penalty. They had good games. He was nailed. You know, you can see why somebody would take the chance when Semenyo had all that transfer speculation, and you know, he's lost a decent amount of points from that call. And it's just a small thing, but you can understand why it was made. I actually looked through his entire transfer history, and I think the only thing Praz did wrong was replacing Nick Pope with David Raya, because Raya is a terrible goalkeeping option, you know, and because he's too expensive for what he offers your team. And you can see like Kelleher, Henderson, Roofs, Pickford, all cheaper, all Hall potential for goalkeepers, much better scores to come, you know. Raya, you're lucky if you get 7 points, 6 point ceiling. So I do feel that was a mistake. But even then, you would have expected Raya to get more points since game week 14 than he has. So I don't actually think Praz, like, I know he's been hard on himself, but at the same time, I feel all his decisions he's made this season, very understandable, explainable decisions, justified by data, projections, player history, and logic. And that's all we can do in this game. And then, you know, once we've done that, once we've made those decisions, it's out of our hands. And those 5 coin flip calls, you could easily have seen them going the other way. And if they had, that would have been 150 points to Praz. And suddenly that 2 million ranking is a top 10k ranking on 5 decisions that anyone could have made. Many people have. You know, that's how, like, a few years ago, that would have maybe been a 200,000 place change in the rankings. Now it's 2 million. This is how the game, it's so much more competitive. It's so much more challenging. And I love it. I do. But at the same time, we have to accept that if the luck goes against us, it is going to feel more severe. It's going to look more severe because of the increased competitive nature of the game, the increased knowledge of the player base, and that's a good thing. It is a good thing, but it can have these impacts on us, and we, you know, go easy on yourself. If you've had a bad week, go easy on yourself. If you've had a bad season, go easy on yourself, because it's a very, very hard game, FPL. You're competing with 13 million people. You've got as much chance of winning this game as you have of winning the lottery. And it tricks you into thinking it's a skill game. And there is skill involved, but the results are out of our hands. And you have to remember that. So, yeah, that's a good way to end. I do think it is a bit of a transitional season. And if you are struggling, if you're in the Praz position, use the rest of the season to transition. Use the rest of the season to evolve your style. We've talked a lot today about the DEFCONs. Maybe use your wild card to get these DEFCON daddies in and see what happens. Ooh, there was a bit of a slip on the black ice. You know, because if we can evolve our strategy, if we can adapt to the new game, the new style of the game with the DEFCONs included, if we can get better for next season, then this is not a wasted season, whatever the result. If we improve for next season, ready to attack, to chase down that world #1, then this season of struggle could well be the start of your most glorious season ever. And you've got to bear that in mind. So I'm going to leave it there. I've got an interview coming out next week. It's been a few weeks since I've done an interview with the almighty Az from the Black Box. It's a good one. It's not fully it's not a Soul versus Solio. I want to evolve the interviews away from Soul versus Solio directly. I will go back to that at times, but I like talking to people. I like having these conversations. So there is a talk of the projection models because Az himself is adopting them at the same time as me. So it's a nice time. But then we talk a bit about the projections and we talk about strategy and then we talk about the emotions around the game, the people around the game. It's a really good interview. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to get it up. I'm going to get this video uploaded and then I'm going to get started on editing that, getting the fancy graphics and everything, and actually recording the intro and the outro, which I completely forgot to do the other day. So I'm looking forward to that one coming out, see what you all think. Probably out on Monday, Tuesday. We'll see. Enjoy the rest from this game. It has been an intense period. Let your mind settle. Have fun strategizing for the future in this time. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time.